First off, welcome, welcome. I hope you feel nothing but so welcome to join me for this journey, Jeff Cannonball.
100%. And I started off a little confused with the bongos. And I remembered when I did this last time, when it was in person, you just had a table of bongos. So I was like, oh, yeah, this thing is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly for the fact that I'm not an editor and can't edit in a cool, neat intro. So I just have a consistent little djembe drum in the beginning.
You do it live. That's perfect. Can't beat that.
When we did it before, what I have to address, and let me be really quick to apologize for how kind of impersonal that was. It didn't feel like the kind of thing that I'm used to doing. It didn't feel like the kind of show that I'm used to presenting. Like, I don't go, oh, well, he's a guest and he's a guest. Let me ask these questions and now your turn. And it's like, it just felt like
roundtable
participation.
I remember I liked it. And I'm not sure if you had told me before the day of that I was going to be on. I think I was just there and you may have been like, hey, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, I'll come sit around a table and talk. And it was mostly about comedy and wrestling. I remember it was a cool conversation though, because we found ways to put them together and make it all kind of intersect, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. It flowed well. I don't want to say I apologize that it was bad. I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah, I don't remember it being bad at all.
But I did learn some cool things, and I think previous to that, I didn't know that you and I knew each other way back. I didn't realize from your beginning that you and I had met back in the day. But I was
you had no reason to remember that.
Yeah. Well, I imagine I probably made 0% impact on your life. I bet I made zero impression. It was just oh yeah, that's a name I recognize. That I recognize that person's name. It's not like I was a name or my name meant anything. It was just at
the time with those shows, and I don't think I'm burying anybody. Most of the people on those shows weren't very good. So I remember you stood out by being oh, this one, he actually look. I mean, I'm the last person who should say looks like a wrestler, but is behaving like what I would think a wrestler was. And I think if I hadn't seen you live at CZW and stuff before that, I think I at least read the name on some result page. So you had that going for you at least.
Marking for those letters now.
Oh, nice. That's all I did when I first started.
Nice. I see. Yeah, me too. I see. Well, I mean, I was like that. I was like that as well. From the beginning, not say exactly from the beginning, but I started at CZW as a fit. I mean, I was in high school. I was in high school when that was going on. So I started going to the school when I was 15, 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And they weren't really anything yet. They were still running in Jersey and the soccer arena.
Okay.
And I was doing ring crew and I would I was a high school kid and I was a nerd. I would write people would write John and Jenny together forever on their notebook. I would write CZW and instead of rock bands, I'd put Wife Beater, Nick Mondo, Justice Pink. I was more of a
I probably have books and notebooks written with the same stuff on it. So I'm right there with you.
It was real cool because that was what got to kind of give me my kick through the door, I got to train with those people.
And that's definitely a cool kick to have. I mean, I remember after doing the NWS and the FWF, the real small shows where I first met you, I did one training session at CZW. It was like a tryout. And afterwards meeting Brain Damage for the first time. And in my head being it's Brain Damage. That's the coolest thing I'll ever do. I just met Brain Damage. Oh my God. I found out his real name. This is crazy. Everything was blowing my mind. So being a high school kid training with that must have been even cooler at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I ever met Brain Damage.
This was a little bit later, but
it was a little bit after my time.
But
stroking my old gray beard real quick. That was a little after my time.
Hey, but yeah, I knew your name from there at the very least, reading results and stuff. So I mean, you definitely stood out in that sense from outside that little church in Delaware and everything. But I don't know. I don't remember too much else, but I just remember meeting you.
Christiana, was that where that was?
Yep.
Was that where I tried to do like the rednecky gimmick? I tried that there, or was I like wearing tights?
I feel like you were wearing tights. I'm almost positive you were. I don't remember the redneck. I don't know if I ever saw you do a redneck gimmick.
I tried it once. I tried it once in that Christiana church thing in Delaware, and it was just like, all right, well, you can't accurately get a gimmick over if there's more than two guys in the match. You know, like
yeah, that's fair.
You can't, like you're focused on what the gimmick is, especially if you're brand new doing that gimmick for the first time. Like, I don't want to say that I was any like well-traveled, well-respected vet. I was still in my start.
Sure.
But I do remember the show. I did one of the shows there where I like was in my CKNY gear, and
I'm almost positive you were in CKNY gear at the time, actually.
Yeah, and I used one of like there was an entrance photo, like a photo someone took when I was like making my entrance. Mark Angel was the guy. Mark, is that the photographer?
Photo Mark. I remember he was Photo Mark. Yeah. I don't remember the last name, but that sounds right.
And I took one of those photos and I was selling it at the gimmick tables, brother.
There you go. Probably made more money off that than JD paid you that day.
If I got paid, I mean,
yeah, that's not a shot at you. It's I know. I mean, I was more than brand new, and I probably made $10. So
right. Yeah, dude. I constantly talk about this, and I still talk about like with comedy, and I talk about it with wrestling. This is the entertainment in general is sort of like a pay to play business, and it's like that's another part. Like you got to stay consistent. You got to stay showing up. You got to stay ready. You got to be like looking like you know what you're doing. Like you kind of said that. Like you look like you carried yourself like somebody who knew what wrestling was and knew what the point. Like that's kind of what I feel like. You're gonna pay to play for a while, and paying dues is a humongous part of everything. Not just wrestling, not just entertainment, but everything. Mm-hmm. Every goddamn thing you do, and of course you know that.
Sure, and it's definitely like. I mean, I've never done comedy outside of like, hey guys, me too, here I am. But like with wrestling, I assume it's the same with comedy from, just being like a nerd for that scene. It really is like you pay to play for a while and then you hope that maybe one day you'll get a nice payday and then maybe you'll get two of those nice paydays and try to kind of stack it into something else. But it's as we both know, never promised in either world. And you're lucky if you do get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I'm really hesitant to do wrestling stuff most of the time because it's like, do you want to help me get like my gimmick over? Do you want to help, or do you want to like throw me in the background of something where it's like, right. Oh, I'm showing up here and you might have something for me, or you might. I'm like, I've been doing this long enough that you should have something for me. If I show up, I don't want to look like a dingus going, well, they didn't have anything for me. Well, I'm out of here.
Right. I think like even before the pandemic kind of hit, I told myself like for 2020, I was going to do less. And I've been doing it not nearly as long as you, I don't believe, probably at least a couple years shy of you. But I was just kind of like, all right, I'm done kind of trying to get a booking every single weekend, no matter what the company is. I want to make it all, and I probably sound cocky here, but I want to make it all something that's going to mean something to me or get me somewhere else. And if not, somewhere where I have fun, somewhere like H2O is my home promotion, or Blitzkrieg up in Connecticut, like places where I knew I had fun and not places where I was going to go and be like, oh, this kind of sucks, actually. What am I even doing now? So right. Like, it definitely is like, I get what you're saying. Like, you don't want to just show up and hope for the best. I'm not showing up unless I'm booked almost at this point, unless like I've got nothing else to do and I have a bunch of friends there already. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, it was like that for like what CCW was back in the day. And like, it was like, oh, if you didn't come to the school, you weren't getting put on shows or something. And it's like, okay, I get it when you're new. I get it when you're new. If you're not training and you're not trying, I get it when you're new. But like, yeah. I think my experience and my name might speak for itself. But like, if you don't believe that, then like,
sure.
probably be doing business together.
Right. And for you just as much, like you probably don't want to do business with them if they don't believe in you like that at that point.
Right.
I mean, 2020, I hit 10 years wrestling in March of 2020. So like, not to be like fucking 10-year vet or anything, but that was when I was kind of like, all right, like if it's something where I'm not having.
Jeff, don't devalue it. Don't take the validation away from it. Don't you know what I mean? Like, don't invalidate it.
Right.
That's 10 years. That's 10 years of your life. And
that's true.
That's 10 years you could have been put at any job. If you work any job for 10 years, dude, you've been doing it for 10 years, right? Like if you work at a warehouse for 10 years, if you worked at a warehouse for 10 years, you worked at a fucking warehouse. That's consistency. Sure. That's what appears to be somebody who's very, like you're doing this. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not just some hobbyist.
Sure.
You're serious.
With a lot of my early shows, and you were on some of those shows, like there was a lot of people who you'd see once and then they got it out of their system. They never came back. So I did, because I started with
we talked about them ticket sellers, bro.
Exactly. That's how I started. And of all the ticket sellers from when I was around NWS, there's 2 of us that still wrestle, not selling tickets like that anymore, but trying to actually make a name and sell tickets off of it. Anything. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like, it's been 10 years. Like I've gotten this like minuscule name off of some of the deathmatch stuff and some comedy stuff and just straight up wrestling too. Where like I've been booked against some pretty like higher up names and stuff. So I was like, why do I need to go work for, XYZ in the middle of fucking nowhere and continue?
What does XYZ stand for? Have you ever worked for them before?
I'm not that creative. That's why you're the comedian. I was trying to think of it. Examine your
extremely yellow Zesseling. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go, Zesseling. That's what we were doing back then. But
extremely yellow zone.
Yes, there you go. That's what it was.
That sounds like some sort of
down.
Something has to do with pee or something.
Yeah. I was just gonna say slowing down our fucking aging and things like that. Cause it was pretty much like I'm a big fat guy and I always have been. So like I've been just beating my knees up and my back up and they hurt more than they should for somebody who's only been, again, I'm not gonna say only, but somebody who's only been doing 10 years. My knees probably hurt a little bit more because I've been 350 plus
carrying
pounds.
weight around, dude. Yeah, you can't pretend you haven't. Like if you went around and you were like, yeah, nothing hurts. Like,
right.
That's absolutely not true because you know that you have a high ass tolerance for pain, of course, but then also like
still
most days there's no painless days for you. You just wake up 100%. And there's pain and you deal with it.
Exactly. And like it got to the point where like I would do like, and not to like bury anybody, so I'm not going to use a name, but like I would go do like a show in the middle of nowhere and they'd be like, it's a $10 payday. Can you take this bump on the floor outside of the ring? I'd be like, I don't want to. Like my body already hurts enough. Like I already did that for, CZW, say we'll go back to them or GCW where people actually watch the product. It's like, that's a stupid thing in itself is just hurting yourself for strangers' enjoyment. But I've kind of made amends with myself where my 10 years has been, let me see how bad I can hurt myself to get these strangers' appreciation of me, which says a lot to, I think, every wrestler's mindset. But like, you got the point where I don't want to do it in front of like 5 people where nobody's ever going to see the footage.
Well, man, dude, I as much as I'm like, hey, don't invalidate your time that you've done it, like you've put a huge chunk of your life into it. With me, I'm like, I do the same stuff. I'm like, oh, the only stuff that matters, like the only stuff that people know me from in wrestling is stuff that happened when I was a teenager and I'm 37 years old now. Like, what the hell? And like the only thing that matters is like, and it's like, oh, you know who really cares about the work I did? 30 people in some church in Delaware, like some fire hall with the roof that's not high enough for me to go off the top rope. Sure.
Yep, that was definitely the Christianity church in Delaware. But I mean, and it's just become one of those things where it's like, hey, like I have to worry about my body after wrestling too, and I think that's what kind of hit more. Plus, like 2020, I got married, and like started working on being like that whole person, a family person.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was kind of like, what's more important to me, like that, or like where it's going to be there forever for me, or wrestling where one day I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. And like you said, 30 people will maybe remember who I was, and then it's like, is that really worth it to me in the long run?
You know what's weird to me is like, and I hope you do this too. I'll always check in with my young Mark self inside of myself, like that. When I check in with him, I'm like, my 15-year-old self would be so ecstatic that I turned into this. Like
100%.
I can't imagine, like, when I was a kid, like I didn't have like a father figure or male role models. My male role models were on TV on Monday nights, and that's, you know, that was who I wanted to be. So I would also go to like indie shows around here, and like these people who were just like local dudes who like worked at the pizza shop were heroes to me. So it's like, if I know if I know that those people were heroes to me, and I know I'm already 100 times better than they were,
right?
As a worker, then I'm like, wow, what a great thing, you know. I hope that I can be the role model or inspiration for somebody else who had you know, dreams to be somebody like this.
Sure. Yeah, and like I try to kind of keep that in check, and it's easy in some sense. Like a couple weeks ago, I wrestled Madman Pondo on a live YouTube thing with Nick Gage doing commentary, and going back to CZW and stuff. Like Pondo wrestled in CZW, wrestled in Japan. He was in video games. Like Nick Gage, as you know, if you know anything about deathmatch wrestling, or even at this point independent wrestling, he's one of the gods of everything. So I had to remind myself. I do all the time where it's like, yo, I'm wrestling Madman Pondo, and Nick Cage is doing commentary and hyping me up. Like, that's insane to me. Right. But there is times where it's like, where you're like doing like shows that aren't where you're wrestling guys that you watched when you were younger. And you do have to remind yourself, like you said, where it's like, there was definitely indie guys that nobody remembers that I remember being like, seeing at like Jersey All Pro and going nuts for. Right. And you kind of have to remember, like, that's us now. Like the other day, there's this Australian company that just got it put on IWTV and called Deathmatch Down Under. And most of the show wasn't a deathmatch, but I was tweeting about it because I've kind of become friends with one of the owners. So just tweeting out like support and stuff. And 3 of the guys from the show hit me up and being like, yo, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. It's crazy that you're watching me now. It's like, wow, I would have never thought about something like that. And that kind of goes to like what you're saying, where it's like, who the hell am I? And these people are like hitting me up from across the actual world being like, thank you so much for watching us. Like, I've been a fan of yours for years now. Like, this is awesome. This is unreal. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I was just tweeting out like, hey, this show's cool. So it definitely is, like you said, remind yourself of like that teenage Mark that we all have inside of us still, that we all should have inside of us, or else why are you even doing this at that point?
Well, I mean, I think that when we were coming up, or at least when I was coming up, I don't want to put words in your mouth or speak for you, but being a mark was kind of like, it was kind of frowned upon. Oh, being a mark was like a thing that was like discouraged when we were kids coming up through. When I say when we were kids, when like I was, I was 15, 16 years old, you know, so I had to like kind of separate myself from the world. And it's also like the amount of humility that was like beat into us about like not being a mark for yourself, especially, that you'd kind of get made fun of for it. And it was like, it's not really the business anymore. It's not really how it goes anymore. And I hate to sound like the Undertaker and Joe Rogan, but on Joe Rogan. No, but honestly, he was so, I agree. What do you think about, did you listen to that?
I didn't. All I heard was pretty much what I assumed was taken mostly out of context. Right. And I'll say, like, I think what the overall meaning was, but I'm glad that my friends aren't dying every other weekend. Like, I've had like a few friends from wrestling die, as I think we all have, and it's fucking miserable. So I feel like I'm glad that they're not all toughened men fucking doing drugs after every single match, or if they are, it's in moderation. But I get the other idea, but at the same time, going very on brand. Things evolve, and I feel like it's kind of evolving in a way that's probably better for the overall health of everybody. And I'd rather have people be healthy than a bunch of like. I'm also not a tough guy, so like maybe I'm just biased on that. Where I'm like, I've never drank in my life, so I'm not that guy in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you are a tough guy. That stuff that you do, like that stuff you do is. I mean, there's a slight selling going on. I get it, but like, it's not like that stuff doesn't hurt.
Sure,
like, and you gotta be tough to just endure that. I mean, I never did deathmatch stuff. I've never had a chance to do that
because you're smart and you knew how to wrestle correctly.
I mean, I've done one match where I've gigged once, and I was in the business for 15 years at the time. And I was all right. I allow myself to do this because there was a build towards it. I didn't want to just do it.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm still willing to do more, and I just I don't really know if I want to do it in a place where no one's going to see it, or like unless it's seen. Like if it was like, hey, everybody's watching this, and it's got all these views, or there's all these people watching it live, or something cool, but like I don't want to do it in front of nobody.
Yeah, and I think it took me a while longer to learn that because I used to be the guy who like, hey, can I bleed? You don't have to pay me anymore. I just want to cut myself in front of this show. And it got to the point where it's like, all right, if I'm going to do the deathmatch stuff, if I'm going to bleed, it's going to cost a little bit more, and it's going to be more worth it. But at first, absolutely not. Like, like I said, I grew up a CZW mark. I grew up a Japanese guy. So like any chance I got where it's like, oh, let's go and I'll fucking color up. But now I found myself being the guy to be like, to talk to like the younger people, especially at like Matt Tremont school, and be like, you don't have to bleed here. Like, go have a good match instead. Like, I remember one of the guys there was like, hey, how do I like, what can I do to like get more over and show him I should be here like booked more often? And I told him like, stop cutting yourself up on every single show and show him you can actually like wrestle and work. Because like I think a lot of people forget that at the end of the day, deathmatch wrestling is still wrestling. It's the bad stuff, you don't see that as much. But like, if you watch a good deathmatch, you're still going to see the wrestling. And I think any wrestler who would sit down and actually watch, like, say, a Danny Havoc or an Alex Colon and things like that, you're going to find some enjoyment in it. Maybe all the glass and stuff won't be for you, but I think a lot of people kind of lose focus of that, where it turns into pretty much like, let me see how much I can bleed because I want to bleed. And I was definitely that person at first. It took me years to get out of it. Like you said, it took you 15 years till you gigged. I think I was 3 years in when I first did it. If somebody asked me on the first show if I would do it, I probably would have said 100%, let's go.
I just knew that I just didn't want to be typecast as that, kind of like, like as an actor, you're typecast as. But the funny thing was, like, I always thought, like, if I ever do it, I'm gonna make sure I get lots of pictures with me, like afterwards. I'm gonna mark out like the ECW guys did. But like after I did it, because the day of I drank a Monster, a beer, and I took like 4 aspirin. I bled so much they couldn't get it to stop bleeding, so they took me to the hospital. I didn't get my picture taken, and I didn't get my payday and my gear and my phone and my wallet. Everything was at the building.
Even better. Oh, that's terrible.
No pictures.
Of course not. It's funny because like it shows like how my mind almost works, where I still have like that little like blood mark in me, where like I did a show, I want to say 2017, maybe 18, where at the end of the match, and it was so I was laying underneath a barbed wire board, and G-Raver, who's fantastic, he's my favorite opponent, did like a swanton bomb onto it. And when he was jumping on it, I had a hand up so the barb wouldn't go in my eye. But instead, when he landed on it, I just punched myself in the bottom of the eye so hard that this whole thing split open, and it was like a gaping wound. And I get to the back, and people are like, "You have to go to the hospital." I was like, "No, we could super glue it." And then like I was like, "Let me see a picture." So like people were taking pictures, and I would see like, oh, like never mind. That's like a 2-inch cut underneath my eye. You could see pretty much into my face. But I still got my pictures before I went, so that shows how dumb I am to this day. I talk all this stuff about being like smarter about when you bleed and stuff, but then I get something like that. I'm like, let's get some pictures first. I probably have pictures in the hospital bed, stitched up, pre-stitched up, and everything.
Yeah, I was picturing myself like Terry Funk and Beyond the Mat, where he's like bleeding after the first pay-per-view, and he's like drinking a beer. I'm like, I liked it.
See, I've definitely been that guy too, though, where it's like everybody's safe afterwards. You can tell there's no like gaping wounds on you. It's like, all right, I'm going to sit and talk to my friends now, even though I'm still covered in whatever blood I have.
Right. Yeah. I'm not close to the idea of doing something like that in the future, but I'm not going to share it with everybody. I mean, of course, I'm saying it on the record here and you know, on my podcast where anyone could hear me say it. And I'm half going like, oh, I'm probably done. I keep saying like, I'm not all the way closed to the idea that like I might not have a whole lot of time left. And it's just like I've been doing it for so long, and I need to use my brain for wrestling. I mean, for podcasting and for comedy. And it's like I've already experienced so much head trauma. Can you fill in with some lyrics right quick?
Oh, sure, I got you.
I'll be right back.
All right. We had so many relationships in this life. Only one or two will last. You go through all the pain and strife. You turn your back and it's gone so fast. Ooh, it's gone so fast. So hold on to the ones who really care. In the end, they'll be the only ones there. When you get old and start losing your hair, can you tell me who will still care? Who will still care? Mbop, doobie-dop, by doo-wop. That one's a little harder to do spoken because I can't, you get the point by now. Bop doop dop by doo wop dooba dop dop bop bop dooba dop by doo. Yeah. Second verse, I'm a little more rusty on, so I do apologize for that. But it looks like I filled enough time anyway.
Rusty.
We got one verse of bop in there, and we got the chorus where I tried to just speak it, and then I realized I couldn't do that.
No, it's like this is ridiculously inside stuff that you don't need to hear about, but I wrote my rent check to my landlord on Friday and put it in the mailbox, and I went away for the weekend.
Oh.
And I came back today, and the rent check was still in there, and he had never come back and pick it up. And he was calling my phone over and over and over and over while I'm sitting here, and he just pulled up out front. I had to run down and give it to him. So now I'm blown up because I just ran all the way down the steps and ran all the way back up the steps.
But going off what you pretty much have said about how you say you're done, and we both know, you probably more than me know plenty of people who have retired, quote unquote, and then had another match a couple years later. But I think there's nothing wrong with, like I said, I was going to slow down in 2020 and only kind of do what I felt like I should do. I feel like if that's you right now, and maybe your list of what you want to do is less than mine, and you have podcasting and comedy to focus on, which is probably, I mean, not probably, it's definitely much easier on your body, I hope, because if not, you're doing something weird, right. Which I'd like to see that too, if that's what you're doing. Well, but no, I think that's an awesome
got thing. Some bumps on the podcast. Everybody does bumps on their podcast, don't they?
Yes, exactly.
No, but no, I think
I was just saying, sorry.
The year, I like, the weird thing was like I had said like, oh, I'm finishing out all my dates and I'm not doing it anymore after the summer's over. And I did that in like 2018, and like and people were like, oh well, you're not done. And then like I started working for my Marcus at the time, and he was like, I would like to ask you to continue to come back here all the time. I like having you around, and I'd like to see what we can do with you in the ring, which was nothing. But I came back. I was doing some stuff, and and I was like, well, I guess I'm not done. And that's probably what you saw me at Matt's at Tremont's school.
Oh yeah.
And those are a couple of fun matches, but like the same thing with I'm not going to show up there and then they go, whoop, we don't have anything for you.
Right.
Like I don't need that.
And
that's
an
ego bruiser.
Like I hear that. Yeah. Right.
Like
if I
that's really devaluing my name brand to myself. It's not nobody else knows that I show up and they go, yep, sorry, well, we can't do anything for you. Got nothing for you. Right.
But at the end of the day, we're all wrestlers. I assume it's the same with comedy. I almost feel like we even touched on it a little bit when we first spoke on here. You get into wrestling for probably the same reason you get into comedy and everything else is because you want more attention on yourself. So to show up somewhere and have them be like, oh, we don't need you. It's like, oh, what about the attention I need? And then that's that ego bruising I think you're talking. And I don't mean that as a bad thing.
It's very much like I've got a validation hole that needs to be filled. I've got a attention seeking damage that I've got to try to build on. I've got to try to put band-aids on the attention seeking band-aid.
And that's all it is. Because if it wasn't needing attention, why else? And we all love it. I'm not trying to say nobody's doing it. They don't love it, but like we all need that attention, or else why else are we permanently hurting ourselves for the enjoyment of a handful of strangers and maybe the hope that one day we'll make some real money, and 99% of us don't make that real money. So it's definitely, there's a little bit of attention to it, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I always say it, and people think it's like messed up that I say that, but I mean it. I'm right there with everybody. That's why I fall onto cinder blocks and thumbtacks. That's how I found my attention.
Right. The joke, I tried to make a joke on like a comedy podcast that I was on, and I said the comedians and wrestlers, it's like we all seek attention so much. And then I started doing like the who sung that song? The Seven Nation Army. But I was saying
White Stripes.
The White Stripes, and I was doing the Validation Army. So
exactly.
We are the Validation Army. The Validation Army couldn't hold me. Oh, you're gonna play it?
I don't remember how to play it. I used to know it. I'm not going to waste your time with that. I used to know it.
Take your time. Who's judging you? Who's judging you?
I was like, oh, if I pick it up, it'll come back to me real quick. And of course it didn't. I was like, I know where it starts, but I don't remember where it goes. That's what we need. I also don't have an amp over here, so it's just going to be real quiet. It's going to I can't. Now I'm like pressure. It's the dumbest, simplest song.
All this pressure on.
And it's the dumbest, simplest song that, like, I guarantee as soon as we hang it up, I'm going to pick that bass back up and be like, oh, yeah, it's just this note instead of this one that I was 2 frets behind.
Well, I mean, at least that's a creative. I didn't know that you played bass. I mean,
oh, yeah. I've got this is my own this is my little creative corner over here where I have my bass here. My guitar's on this side. I have electric drums I just got behind me. Before wrestling and even during the beginning of wrestling, I was touring in punk bands and like hardcore bands for fucking years.
I did know that. I mentioned it to you. You did mention that to me, and I had forgotten.
That's all right.
Because you're the deathmatch and soda guy.
Yeah, exactly. I've ruined that part of my. This part's not my personality anymore. Now it's I got. Now this is all I do.
Jones Cola?
Yeah, Jones watermelon soda.
Dude, have you submitted like to get a picture of yourself on one of the soda bottles?
I haven't, because you can just pay and get that. That's no problem. But they reached out to me a few months back. Like they DM'd me on Twitter and they were like, we love what you're doing. Obviously we love the Jones one's best. Like, what's your address? If you'd like, we could send you some stuff. So I was like, please do. Like, this feels like I made it in my little soda world, which was not intended to be my soda world. It just happened. And then it took like a couple months. I was like, all right, they forgot about me. Oh, well, like it didn't work out. And then one day I opened the door and there's just a big Jones box on the front step. I got a jacket, like a windbreaker, and it was my size, which I was like, I'm a 3X dude. Nobody's sending out 3X jackets.
Right.
And then like a couple sodas, and then recently, again, no DM, no warning, nothing. I got walk outside. There's a bigger Jones box. And they sent me 6 more sodas. So now they just send me free stuff, which is so sick.
Well, that's amazing. That's
Right?
you're a soda influencer.
Apparently, and I mean, people are telling me to talk about it more, even though I haven't said much. I'm working with a company in Canada. I'm doing my own soda, and first I was like, all right, this soda company wants to work with me. They'll probably send me like 5 sodas, and it'll be like a funny label. But he's talking about like getting pallets shipped to me, and I was like, oh, I need to figure out where to put this.
You got a garage?
I do, but it's full. I got to make. I'll make it work. But yeah, like I'll have my own soda soon, and it's weird because it all started because I saw a root beer I never heard of, and I like root beer, so I was like, "Hey, can you film this?" And I gave the phone to my wife, and I didn't plan anything. I was just, "Hey, short soda reviews. It's a root beer. It's good," and I got messages from so many people being like, "That was really funny. You should keep doing this." I was like, "Like, you sure?" Like, okay. And now I think I just did like yesterday. I put up like number 73, and I still get more likes and more retweets and more views on those than anything else. I think, except for the Vice documentary I was in, where they pulled a thing out of my skull. But other than that, I'll take soda for that any day.
It's like the Mick Foley discovering the sock.
It's 100%. And like I even say like now like I'm the comedy deathmatch guy at this point because why not? You know what I mean? Like everybody else wants to be the next big tough guy, Zandig wife beater guy. Like I'll be the next Mick Foley where I'm just gonna run around with fucking drink a soda and make jokes the whole time, and people love it. Like it's worked for me. It was never meant to be. This is my new persona, but it's working. I feel like that. I hear that with like a lot of music and comedy too, where it's like, go ahead.
PerSODA.
Yes.
Your new PerSODA.
My new PerSODA. But now it's like I just stumbled into this new PerSODA, and this is my life now. And it's funny because like I'm a big fat guy. I was never drinking that much soda. I would drink Diet Coke more than anything because I just like that, and I knew that soda wasn't good for me, and I should try to be a little healthy. So now I drink 3 sodas a week when I have to film them for the reviews, which is probably more than I should drink. But I feel like there's people who don't get free things sent to them who drink more soda than I do. So I'm okay with myself right now.
Well, it's weird. Like it's like it makes you like it more. It makes you like genuinely react even more. Yeah, probably the fact that you haven't touched it in a couple days or whatever. You know what I mean? The fact that you're dry from it, and it's not like all you do is sit around and drink soda.
Right, that's true. And people send me like I pretty much. It's rare now that I'll leave a wrestling show without some fan giving me some soda I've never heard of. And I like that. Like I like finding new things where it's like, oh, this is a prickly pear soda. I've never even seen this thing in real life. So I like that too. Like it's been fun to me where it's like, I was actually just talking to my wife earlier. I don't collect anything really. Like I realized that. I used to like collect records and stuff when I was more involved in punk, but I really don't anymore. So now it's pretty much like I just get real hyped on finding out about like new sodas and new drinks I've never heard of. I don't keep the bottles because it would just be a lot of trash built up. But
then there's ants and
exactly that's more my fear. But that's become like my collection is like being able to be like, oh, I had this one soda that you can only find in like Oklahoma during the summer, and like I think that stuff's really cool to me. So like I've become a nerd for the soda industry, which I did not expect to be.
You know what I'm a nerd for collecting, honestly, and this kind of goes right along with is like the fact that, and I probably said this to you last time. This stuff that we record, the stuff that we put on the internet, how much it's like outliving us. There's absolutely this is on the record. You know what I mean? This is this is going to be like, if you have kids one day, they can go back and sort of listen to who you were, when you were at this age. So I find that very fascinating, and I have it where I wanted to make sure I had like my brother on the show. I had my mom on the show just to be able to say the things that are like, stuff that's going to outlive me. So if, if I'm not around, they can listen back and be like, wow, he told us he told me that he was grateful for me and that he loved me. And
Oh wow, that's awesome.
and
I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be a crying mess. I'm a crybaby. So I respect that you could do that. That's really, really cool.
Well, I mean, I think I probably told you this story before, and I'm sure I've told it on the podcast many times. But I lost my friend in comedy, Chris Cotton, last year or 2 years ago now, and I had him on the show twice.
Oh wow.
Where on the show I said, like, dude, to me, regardless of who knows you now and who will know you later, because I know tons of people are going to know who you are. On the record now, I want to let you know you're a superstar to me. You're hilarious to me. I love you, and I cherish our friendship. And him to then accept that and say, you're funny. I love you right back. And
That's awesome.
like, to hear one of the funniest dudes I've ever met call me funny, it was cool to have that on the record. And then, now I can be like, well, Chris Cotton said it was funny.
And I can actually go right along with that. That's amazing. It's so cool that you got that like on video, on podcast. One of like the coolest things for me, were you familiar with Danny Havoc? Did you ever get to meet him?
Yeah. Yeah. I met him his first day at school. Grant, I met him his first day.
Oh, that's
yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like you were on the shows that I was just first seeing him on, but I couldn't remember them.
Do you know those black boots they used to wear with the white soles on them?
Yeah.
I gave them to him.
That's amazing.
those were my boots. I gave them.
That's so cool. Go with what you said, and that's amazing. Right. I love that. Grant was like, for me, like when I first started going to CZW, he was my favorite. Like Danny Havoc was the fucking man. The first TOD I went to live was TOD 7, where he won it. It was his first one where he won. And the scoring might get a little sorry, but always
get a little sorry.
I might get a little worked up over here.
Okay. No judgment. You're so safe. You're so welcome to say whatever you want or not say whatever you want. Honestly, dude, Grant meant a lot to me, and I thought when I was at H2O and Tremont told me that he wanted me to have a match with Henderson, and I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't know anything about him, and I had never been in that building since H2O took it over. And the fact that there's a banner for Danny in that building, I was like, I was at the monitor with Henderson, and I was like, oh my God, I love that guy. Believe it. Right. I was like, oh my God, I love that guy. That's so awesome that they have that banner there. And he's like, that I can't tell you how much it means to me that you're saying that to me right now. That was my best friend. I didn't know that they were.
I loved him too.
I didn't know that they were. I just was like, that's a genuine moment. Like I really loved Grant, and he was my bud. Like I tell the story all the time. It's like when I did one of the like SCIDA seminars that when CZW and Chikara mended schools for a year or something.
Sure.
And I did one of the SCIDA seminars, and I had to do like a nip up off of Grant's back.
Okay.
And like land on your feet. You got to do like a kip up in the air when you're like you like hook them. What's that? Resorte?
Resorte. Yeah. Isn't that what it's called?
I don't know.
I trained with Quack a handful of times, so that's why
I did that, and I landed on my feet, but then my left ankle went and like popped out from under me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit out now. But Grant is attached to that memory because he was the one I did it of.
That's perfect. Yeah, he's the fucking best. And like, but going back to what you said with getting to have that memory with the comedian, one of the biggest things for me in wrestling was like, here we go, getting home from doing a match at it was called On Point Wrestling. They ran for 4 years. They still kind of run on and off. And I had a match with G-Raver, and I get back home, and I have an email from Grant that was like, all about how like I was like you as a person. I never really watched you wrestle, and honestly, like you have the body type of somebody who is not my typical person. Because Grant was very honest, so it was like you have the body type of somebody who's wrestling I don't typically enjoy. He goes, but you guys fucking killed it. This is why I like the match. This is what was awesome, dude. I still have that email saved. Like it's like going what you said. Like no matter what anybody says, like Danny Havoc thought I was good, and that's all that matters. And like,
Right.
like, I had plenty of other memories with him, but that was like the first like, it's fucking Danny Havoc, like complimenting me. Like this is unreal to me. But he was the fucking best, and yeah, that like I'm glad I have that not on video and podcast, or else I'd probably watch it every day to this day. But I still have that email saved, and I think that's the coolest thing I have from all that.
Yeah, dude, I still have his phone number in my phone. Like I go past it all the time. And I remember like going to like a bar with him after a show or something, and him saying to me a thing that I think about all the time and I laugh about all the time, because he said a thing to me that I'll still say to people because I got it from him, when he would say, "Hey, Corey Castle, you old so and so." That was totally from the Birdcage.
Yes, yeah. But dude, that was the way he talked, where he'd use phrases you haven't heard since who knows when. And
you old so and so.
My favorite thing is like I remember like talking to him, like texting with him, and I'm sorry I didn't mean to turn this into the Danny Havoc Memorial Show. Where like
I love it. That's fine.
I'd be trying to like use bigger words, and I have a pretty good vocabulary. I'm a college educated man. I graduated with a degree and all that. And like, so I have a decent little vocabulary, but he had the craziest vocabulary, and he'd use words and phrases you haven't heard. So I would find myself in text being like, "Yeah, this was real insidious." And I was like, "What the fuck did I ever use that word before?" And I'd be like, "That's not me. Let's delete that and put gross."
I tweeted out a thing recently, and I was like, "I'm really proud of myself. I use reciprocity. I used reciprocity in an appropriate way where it like applied to the situation." And I was like, "Yeah, it's education."
Exactly. Yeah, because we're supposed to be dumb wrestlers or dumb comics. We're not supposed to be able to pull out words like that unless you're I don't know, like Lewis Black. Is he a comedian that throws around big words? I assume. I'm just picking somebody who I assume is smart.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get the impression that he's smart. I know, like Conan is a Harvard educated.
There you go.
The National Lampoon and everything out of Harvard. So, yeah, Conan. Let's just say Conan.
Yeah, we'll go with Conan. We're not all Conans out here, but
we're not all Conans out here.
But sometimes we surprise ourselves and we use what was the word?
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. I think I know what that means. I think.
Well, if
like reciprocating, does that have something to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, hey, I treat you with respect. I treat you with love and honor, and I expect you to treat me with a little bit of reciprocity, and to be mutual with a little bit. So it's just kind of mutual like common decency.
Right. That's a good word. I'm gonna store that and try to use it this weekend.
Right, and so you can use so.
I'll probably use that too. I'll probably use that first, and then try to say I can't even fucking say it. I'll try to say the other one, and then I'll have to stop and be like, "Give it back."
I think I learned it from an Incubus song.
Makes sense.
As a lot of things that I apply to my life and things that I do have to do with things I learned from Incubus songs.
There you go. I mean, that's like half like my political beliefs and all that are still from like punk songs I heard in the 90s. So I'm right there with you.
So, what I like to do, I'm gonna probably just do a couple more things, and then I'll send you off with a hot dog and a handshake, and send you off right off in the sunset and all that.
Well, I am vegetarian, so it's got to be a tofu.
A vegan hot dog.
A vegan hot dog. I had one yesterday.
Tofurkey dog.
Big fan of tofurkey. I'm not a big fan, but I like tofurkey.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm a big fan because then somebody's going to try and be like,
sponsor.
Yeah, well, I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day.
I'm not about for a pallet of tofurkey.
I'm not about getting sponsorships from anybody. Oh, let me get the label on there. Getting sponsorships from anybody. So if anybody else wants to jump on the bandwagon, by all means, feel free. I'm not against all of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll take a sponsorship as well. I mean, I'm dying to sell out. I mean, give me the opportunity.
Yes. I've got nothing else around me to hold up and try to get sponsorships.
Me neither.
Hey, Acme? Acme, do you need me?
Wu-Tang Pizza? Wu-Tang Pizza Parlor?
Perfect.
This episode brought to you by Wu-Tang Pizza Parlor.
Just send us free stuff, please, guys. That's all we're asking for. We just need free stuff. We're wrestlers and comics. We don't have money like that.
I did like how I wasn't making a comfortable living, but I was paying my bills with just the fact that I was an actor, and then like I'd fill in with a side hustle of like Uber Eats and stuff. In the beginning, before the pandemic started, that was what I was doing, and then I was like, all right, well, time to go back to HVAC work. That's what I'm doing every day now. So I would like to be in an opportunity where, like, as a podcaster, as a comedian, as a wrestler, I'd like to be able to not have to do that as
right.
not that I don't want to word it like I hate that, but it's like if I've already risked my life and my wellness for most of my life, and now I'm doing it again for a very thankless thing, to only help me keep the lights on.
Yeah, and I get that too. Like, I mean, I never had to the point where I can quit my day job and just do the wrestling, like a little side hustle. But I definitely had a couple good months, mostly within like 2 years, where I was paying my rent with wrestling money, which, like, I'm a 5'10" fat dude. I shouldn't have been able to do that ever. I'm 5'9" if I'm being honest. But like, I should have never been able to pay rent. Like, people who look like this don't pay rent on wrestling. So I was lucky for that. And like, I always said, like, I know I'm not going to get signed because I know what I look like. I know I'm not what you see on TV. But like, we're at the point now where more and more indie guys are making a nice little living. Not millionaires, I don't think.
One of your NWS brethren is now in one of the major leagues.
So. Yeah, making good money. And I just saw him actually a couple weeks ago for the first time in a while, and still the same old moron he's ever been. I love him, but we all know. But like, I know that I don't belong on TV. That's just the way I look. But for a minute there, I got to pay some bills with it, and I would love to do more of that. And like you said, I've been literally damaging and killing myself for things. So I wish. I don't hate my day job, but if I didn't have to work my day job and I replaced it with something I absolutely love, such as wrestling, I absolutely love that. I want to try the acting thing too, but that was right when the pandemic kind of hit, so I never even got to be like. I texted like one buddy of mine who does it once in a while, maybe a friend of the show, Zach Amico, and he was like, "Yeah, like I'll get you in touch with some people," and then everything just stops. I was like, "Oh, never mind. I'll hit you up in 8 months or whenever it is now."
Yeah, man. I'll send you a short film I did. I want you to check it out.
That'd be sick.
I would like you to check it out and tell me what you think, because it's something we released during the pandemic. We were gonna try to put it in like festivals and stuff, but it fell right in the unfortunate timing.
The world.
But do you have any desire to kind of start your own podcast? I know you just said you're like new to the setup to set this up to do this with me today, but absolutely, like, you have the ability to do that, and it can kind of go off of the soda thing.
Right. I appreciate that. I want to try to do like I tried podcasting for like a minute, and I didn't. I'll be honest. Like, I'm the kind of person who, like, if things don't work, it's kind of like, all right, on to the next one. Like, this sucks. It's not working. Where I did like, I think 5 episodes of a thing with a buddy of mine named Mitch Vallon, who wrestles as well. And it wasn't, I feel like it wasn't what I wanted it to be. And that's not his fault, not my fault. It's what happened. So I kind of fell out of that real fast. But recently I've kind of had the bug where I want to at least try to like maybe try Twitch and see if I can like get more comfortable doing this with like something like Twitch, where maybe I don't archive everything constantly, but I still have like come watch, because I like live performance. So I think Twitch is very like, come watch me talk over this wrestling show I'm gonna watch, and like, like put up like my old matches and like make fun of myself, like Mystery Science Theater it. But like, it's all ideas right now. I'd love to do more like podcasting things. I do think I'll give myself this much credit. I think I talk a lot, and I probably talked over you a little bit. And I apologize, but I think I have the personality and I can talk enough to fill up space. But I think like I'd like to kind of dip my toe in more. I set up a whole Twitch page. Haven't twitched any, or is it? I don't know if you call it twitched. I haven't streamed anything yet, but it's all in the back of my head.
I want to make sure on the record, that I'm happy we're friends. And I feel like still, even though it's been years and we've known each other for a long time, I still feel like this is still just the very beginning. And I'm happy. I'm very happy to be any resource I can possibly be for you. If I can help you in any way, please do not hesitate to call me. If you just need to talk, if you just need a friend, absolutely happy to be your friend. Anything going on. You have, and I wanted to give you this compliment earlier, and it goes along with us talking about Grant so much. One of the things I commented on one of the soda reviews, I don't remember what it was, but you said something like, "This is better than it deserves to be," or something. You said,
I had said that. I remember it was for a Doritos Tamarind, where I said this
better than it has more. It's better than it has any business to be, or something
like that. Yeah.
And I was like, that is such a Danny Havoc thing to say. Like, just it felt very inspired, and I just wanted to give you that compliment while we're on the record and make sure I let you know I see you and I love you, and I want to send you this light and this love and this enjoyment, and I absolutely hope that if there's anything I can help you out with, that you don't hesitate to reach out to me.
And it's I will reciprocate it. I'll use that word because I got that one down a little bit better. I reciprocate the feeling, and like I was gonna actually text you this after this, but I'll just tell you now while we're complimenting each other. From wrestling and probably from comedy too, you get asked to do a lot of podcasts, and a lot of them, and I didn't expect this one to be garbage. I've done this before. I know it's fun, but a lot of them are really, really, really bad. So a lot of times you do it, and afterwards it's like, why does anybody do this? And things like this, where you have like a setup and you clearly know what you're doing, you aren't just being like, so when did you like wrestling for the first time? Like, this is what makes me feel like I could do something like this. I want to do something like this. It's not going to just be another guy being like, so Corey, who was your favorite opponent? Like, because you've probably done dozens of those just like I have. But like seeing like you, somebody who I've met and somebody who I know and consider a friend, you're able to set up this cool looking background and even a cooler looking background on your screen while I have like a bunch of garbage and stuff back here. It makes me want to do stuff more.
There's standard saying that you have to have anything but your place you live in behind you.
No, but yours just looks cool. Though I just realized this penguin's pretty perfectly framed, so I appreciate that.
Perfect penguin frame.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it takes to be a good podcaster. But no, like things like this is like what makes me want to do more. And so like for that, I thank you and I appreciate you putting out that olive branch. And I will probably take you up on that whenever I get like a little bit more courage to actually be like, every week I'm going to sit down and either talk to somebody or talk to a microphone or talk to a camera, because people like you absolutely kill it and actually do a good job. And it's not just another run of the mill podcast that we've all done. We're cut and paste all the questions. I could tell you, an hour's worth of questions I've probably been asked a dozen times and be like, I can't wait for this to be over.
It's like, okay, you can Google who your guest is going to be and then ask them questions based off of the results you found. So you're going to wind up answering the same questions a million times. And when, like, I'd say I started getting on podcasts, like people used to have blog talk radio, like the stuff where you just call in and you talk to them. You can tell while they're asking you the question, it's the same question they asked 4 other people. And while you're listening or while you're telling them, they're not listening. They're just going like they're looking up whatever 100%. They're doing. And it's like they're just and then like their fake ass Oh wow, that's a crazy story. It's like, do you really think it's a crazy story, or is that your bulk answer?
Or like the new thing I've learned, and now I'm just shitting on another podcast. Is like they'll be
shit away, save space.
Or now they'll be like, so what'd you think of AEW this week? It's like, what? I don't know. Like I wasn't on it. I don't watch AEW honestly. Like if some friends are on it, yeah, sure. Like I've been on podcasts where they're like, what do you think about Sting and AEW? It's like, I don't know. I'm not working there. Like I have no real thoughts. It's cool. That's all I got for you. But so it's cool to do something where somebody actually like seems to like care about almost like the art of podcasting or the art of interviews, I guess you could say, as opposed to, like you said, just, hey, so on February 4th, you wrestled this person and go off that.
Well, honestly, I don't consider this an interview. I consider this a hangout or a conversation. It's like, I'd rather have it be the type of thing as a podcaster, like somebody who listens to podcasts like crazy. I'd rather it be more similar to something I'd want to hear than an interview where it's like, oh, well, in the media, you like, shut up.
Right. And I think because I've done a few podcasts where they're like, it's very conversational, and it's like, oh, it's such a forced conversation. Like this isn't a real conversation, as opposed to this where it's like, I'm like, oh, am I talking too much? Like I'm just having fun, like talking to my buddy Corey now, and it's like, is this what he wants? I don't know. Like in my head, I have like all that going on, so I appreciate this end of the conversation where I realize I didn't ruin your entire show.
Not at all. Not at all. This has been a pleasure, and I really mean it when I hope that you feel like from the very start of us conversing in any way that I'm sincere in my 100%. Gestures towards you, because I don't know how to manufacture. I mean that says a lot for my acting ability. I don't want to say that. I don't want anybody who I'm friends with to believe that I'm faking it. If I'm saying like, dude, you fucking fascinate the hell out of me. Like I've never met anybody like you. That's why you have to have a voice that means something. That's why you have to have a podcast. That's why you have to have an outlet, because your voice, like you have like 7 different lifetimes worth of experience in one person.
I've been told that before.
That's fucking incredible, Jeff. Like I think it's absolutely like it's you have to be for the sake of the people coming up,
right.
Like for the sake of and not just that, like your wife like can go back and hear the stuff of like if she loses you or something, or like your family can go back and listen. I can go back and listen to this stuff. You know what I mean? I can be as fascinated with whatever you say, so that next time I have you on my podcast again for the 3rd time, I can reference the things. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm like, oh man, you start because you're the type of person who I'd be such a fan of what you're doing. And it doesn't mean that you have to fall on cinder blocks for me to love you. You don't need that validation from me. What you need from me, right? Like, hope you feel like that validation army hole is filled.
I do appreciate it. I don't want to say like I agree with you, because that sounds like me just propping myself up real hard, but I get what you're saying, and I do appreciate that. And I do want to do more like that, like 100%, without a doubt. So I probably will take you up on that and probably text you and be like, hey, is this good enough? Like, what do I do now? And if I do, like I said, like I want to start like doing Twitch where I watch videos and pretty much make fun of my old wrestling. Maybe I have you come make fun of your old wrestling. We can pull up some JD Smooth wrestling extravaganzas.
Does that exist in the world?
It's probably on YouTube somewhere. I bet you I can search Corey Castle FWF and find you somewhere.
Probably not.
You'd be surprised. I've looked up some NWS stuff and found some real gems from back then.
Bro, I just did an episode with Matthew from Botchamania, and we did a full like rundown of Wicked Hanuman at the ECW Arena in 2007.
Yeah, actually.
What's that?
I actually watched that recently, pretty much. Within the last probably 3-4 months, I'd say I watched that.
And I had a singles match with Matt Bomboy in the first match on the show.
have to watch again, but I believe
And
it.
I was like,
Sounds right.
I'm embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed.
But that's like what I want to do is like watch the stuff that's like not the best of, but it's the absolute worst. No. And maybe occasionally a good match if somebody really has to watch a good match.
So I do this segment on the show, and I call it audio time travel. And I think I did it with you before, where it's like the you know how I said that this audio, this video, this all this is outliving us. So this on the record stuff is outliving us. So I like to say, like, let's audio time travel to 30, 40 years in the future when maybe you're not here anymore, or you know, maybe you're in a whole entire different realm of your existence, you know. So you know, you're far beyond wrestling, you're whatever, you're, you know, a granddad or whatever. The message is that you're going to say directly into your microphone right now are going to go into the ears of the people who love you the most, the people who want to go back and hear what Cannonball's like, and hear the, you know, hear the sincerity, hear the way, the lessons that you've learned that have brought you to who you are, and what 2020 has been like in 2021.
Yeah, right.
That's
hard. I don't know. I think the biggest thing like that I've gotten that I hope anybody else kind of gets, and that people are maybe proud of me for doing, is that I feel like I've always kind of tried to live where it's like, if you really want to do something, just do it. Who cares if it's not going to be like the biggest or the best version of it? Growing up, and my dad will tell you this, like I grew up loving pro wrestling and watching WrestleMania. I can remember the day he brought home Hogan versus Andre on VHS, and I want to do this. And now I'm 33 years old, and I'm you know, not WrestleMania, but I did it. I got to live out some cool dreams. I got to sit on a plane to go wrestle somewhere with music. I got to go play music in Europe, all because I grew up loving, you know, Nirvana and Green Day and all that stuff. So I got to go play at never stadiums, but to a couple hundred people, which was, like I said before, it's more than I feel like somebody who looks and acts like me should be able to do. So I feel like if anything gets taken away from me and what I do with my life, it should be, if you really want to do something, just do it. Who cares if it's not going to be top of the charts or WrestleMania? And I did it, so you should be proud of me for doing that. And 2020 was a hell of a year where I did more than I probably should have too. I got married, and I still got to wrestle a little bit and do cool shit like that too.
Can I give you something? Can I give you something? And you know, maybe you can apply this and take it with you, because I think you've done this. So I think you know, you should use this. Redefine what your definition of the next level is. Like, you've reached so many next levels, and it's like, you don't take away from the accomplishments.
Right. And I think like you probably just put it better than me, where like in my mind it's like, sure, I grew up watching WrestleMania, or sure I grew up like watching Nirvana like change music forever, and I didn't do either of those things, but like I did get to do some really cool things. And like my dad has always been like, you did both these things that you grew up loving, and that's an amazing thing. So like you said, redefining it, where like when I was 10 years old, I probably was still like, if I don't do WrestleMania, I didn't wrestle. But now it's like, oh, I got to wrestle some cool people and some cool places in front of a lot of people. People bought things from me and wear my t-shirts and stuff. So I made it in my own little world, and that's perfect. I'm not mad about where I'm at.
You know, I'd say just a little tiny part of it is you brought him up, Zach. You brought up Zach Amico. Like, him having that match with you was like one of the biggest moments of his life. Like, it's one of his biggest dreams. And like,
and he told me that, and it's weird. But
you made somebody's dream come true. Like, it was like he's such a dreamer of dreams. You know what I mean? He's such a he's living somebody else's dream, but he got to live his dream with you. And that that's such a moment that you can't ever take that back. You did that.
Sure.
So as much as you can let other people try to minimize what your accomplishments were, they can't, because you are delivering dreams to dreamers and other dreamers who sell dreams to dreamers. Like, we are infinitely evolving and infinitely making impressions that matter, and your impressions that you've made have mattered. And I just know nothing but impressions like that are going to continue. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to know you.
I appreciate you saying that. I feel you say it in a way that I think I mean it, but you're better at talking than me. And also, I'm afraid that if I say something like that, it's going to come off like not humble, which I'm a very humble person.
Like Spoey. Yeah, exactly. I have the same thing. I get that exact way. So it's like you dance around.
Yeah.
I do it. So please don't feel alone in it. So just because like I'm better at talking for you, like that's it's like I don't go, well, I made somebody's life, I made somebody's dreams. And like we were talking about the people who inspired us. Like,
yeah, I was going to say that too, actually.
I remember, like, I was a huge mark for Messiah. I was a huge mark for Billy, and I had him on the podcast so that I could tell him how much of a mark I was for him. And when he said to me, or he cut a promo right after the thumb incident, and he said,
"Oh well, okay."
And he said, "This is just an obstacle." And those words, "This is just an obstacle," is exactly what got me through coming back to wrestling after my brain surgery. Him saying that to me, or him saying that in front of me. I was right next to him in the locker room, like right behind on the other side of the counter when he said that. And I was like,
oh, wow.
If he can do that, if he can feel that way, and it's like, that's such an impediment on his life, you know? And
yeah.
if he's saying that's just an obstacle, like nothing should ever be able to stand in anybody's way. And I got to tell him that on the record. And for a while, I was doing this when I went to the ring, and I was saying, like, when I was saying I was inspired by these people. The booker for the company I was working for, he was noticing that I was doing those things, and he was like, "You're doing these things because those people inspired you, but you have to understand that you're in a generation where you're inspiring that next generation with what you do." So I'm too busy marking out to not mark out for myself enough to go like, what I'm doing matters to these younger people coming up. And it's neat. It's neat. I dig it.
It is. I think it goes to both of us being kind of a humble people when, like you said, you're marking out for other people, but then you realize like, oh, there's people who are watching me just like I watched Messiah or any of these people. Just like I said before, like it was crazy to me that people from Australia were like, "Hey, thank you so much for watching. Do you have any notes on the match?" And in my head, I'm like, me? Like I'm over here like asking like Matt Tremont for notes on matches. Why are you asking me? Go ask him. He's better. And then you realize, like you said, we're kind of we're the people that other people are watching now, just like we watch people before us, which is an amazing thing to think about.
So I just hope with what my consistency, what I'm the message that I'm putting out, the vibes that I'm putting out, and the sincerity that I'm putting out, that I'm continuing to inspire people with what my words are,
100%,
whatever. So because maybe more people are going to hear this or see this than are going to see any of the work that I did in the ring for my whole life. So why not continue to create as much as I can and also like encourage people like that. I want to encourage you as much as I want to encourage anybody who I know who's got everybody's voice is unique. Everybody's struggle is not any less important than anybody else's. So, it's a weird thing. It was like what in the Undertaker thing when he's talking about like how the current generation is a little more soft. It's like, yeah, it's kind of true because like back then they didn't have things like triggered and trauma and PTSD, and they didn't have things like that. They didn't have the ability to say, "I get anxious." It's like they'd be like, that's not an excuse. Put your boots on and get out there. Like that was a toughness that generation had. But
it's all just an obstacle, like you said before.
Yeah, it's very much an obstacle. Whatever that is, that's That's this much. That's this much. That's
Right.
you've got 1 hour, maybe 3 hours where you're anxious, and then like 6 minutes where you got to go out there make your mark, and then you got the rest of the day. You got the rest of the day to feel however you want.
That's a good way to put it.
Like, absolutely feel how you feel, but like don't let that be the thing that stops you from continuing forward.
If he put it that way, people probably wouldn't have gotten so mad about it. I think you just put it better. and that's why you're the person who runs a podcast and not him. This
is my yard now.
You're the big dog up here.
So the way I close out now, I told you this before, I'm sure, last time you were on. I always say hypothetically, I've gifted you this show. So this episode has been your pilot episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Jeff Cannonball. So episode 1 is in the books now, and in a very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, wrap it up in a good like minute summary that just kind of like puts the tags on it that can help people be inspired to be
right.
Evolve to a better version of themselves tomorrow as they were today, or next hour as they were last hour. And maybe at the end of it, after you've done that, just do your best Alf impression and say, "Hey, Willie," just to keep it silly.
I think I'm more afraid to do that than I am the serious part of that. Mostly because I'm going to do that, and my wife, who's sitting right over there, is going to be very confused. But as far as wrapping this up, I think the big takeaway from this is kind of don't forget what made you want to do it in the first place, and don't forget that no matter who made you want to do it, now you're making other people want to do it, and we all have an influence over other people because everybody's watching everything, and there's people out there who want to be the next Corey Castle, just like there was people who want to be the next Jeff Cannonball, just like want to be the next Messiah, Danny Havoc, and all that, like we were saying before. So I think the big takeaway is just don't forget what made you love it, and don't forget that you're fucking doing it, and that's an amazing thing. And as far as Alf go, I don't think I have an Alf impression. I'll leave that for you, unfortunately. You're the comedian, so you can do that more than
it doesn't have to be good, Jeff. It doesn't have to be good at all. It's just a very throwaway thing.
It also doesn't help that I have. Oh, do you do this at the end of everyone? Is it
every
the same
single
thing?
one? Every single one.
I also haven't watched it. So what was the name? Hey, what?
Alf, Alien Life Form. Hey,
no,
Willie.
I know him. Hey, Willie.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in probably 20 years. Hey, Willie.
That was the best one yet.
Okay, now my wife is looking at me very confused because I made sure to look right at her while I did it. I was very confused. Trying to eat her food.
Is there anything else you want to like put over, get out there while we're on the record? Any other things?
You've put me over enough, so I appreciate that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's just as we're doing it, I want to give a quick shout out to William Welsh, Messiah, Billy. He's going to be featured on Dark Side of the Ring. Vice just interviewed him. So you're going to be he's going to be a fellow Vice documentary.
Yeah, he gets on documentary. Him and Nick Gage, which is awesome. But yeah, like I said, you put me over enough. So just at Jeff Cannonball on all social medias. That's what I got. I drink a lot of soda, and I post videos of me wrestling way too much. I probably post more soda videos at this point in my life if I'm not kidding myself. And hopefully, I already have the Twitch of Jeff Cannonball. If you want to go follow that, eventually I will start doing stuff as I promise you.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for doing this, and I hope we can do it again, maybe in another year or two. And I hope to continue to help you if I can, and I hope we continue to be a symbiotic relationship. If this is your first time listening to Evolving with Corey Castle, there are 219 other episodes on all the platforms. Please subscribe on YouTube it's youtube.com/Corey Castle. I'm actually able to have a vanity YouTube channel now because I have 100 subscribers at this point. So
Heck yeah.
check that out. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, comment. Please feel free to comment on anything. Comment on the YouTube. Comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. However you got to comment, however you got to like, however you got to share. Please get the word out there, because all I want to do is give you free good stuff. And I am not asking you for much. I appreciate all of the effort because, dude, I say this so much. I think that effort and time are way more of an important currency than money. And I appreciate all the effort of your all the currency of your effort, all the currency of your time. So, please, go back and listen to old episodes if you want. If not, cool. Stick with me. Get new episodes every Monday. And follow me on the YouTubes and at Corey Castle on all the social medias. Be fun, have safe, and keep evolving.